Well, that's a song called Quiet Nights and Quiet Stars. Hello again, everybody. I'm going to talk some more about modes today. In the first video, we played some 2-5-1s in the key of F, where on the G minor, the 2 chord, we used Dorian mode. On the 5 chord, Mixolydian. And on the 1 chord, Ionian. It's really the F major scale on every one of those chords. So one thing I want to do before we get too much further into modes is just quickly describe what each mode is generally used for. The first mode, Ionian, is just the major scale, and you use it on a major 7th or a major 6th chord. Okay, the Dorian mode is generally used when you're playing a 2 chord or a minor 7th chord. And so when you have any minor 7th chord, you can try the Dorian mode. It's usually a pretty good choice. So for instance, if we had F minor 7th, that's the 2 of E flat. That's the 2 chord of E flat. So you'd use the E flat major scale. But it's probably just as easy to think of it as an F minor scale with a regular 6 and a flat 7. Right? So, Phrygian scale. If you're in, say you're in the key of C and your chord is E minor, that E minor chord is really a substitute for your 1 chord. So once again, you're using C major scale, and you really don't have to think about Phrygian mode. But there's another use for Phrygian mode, and that sometimes you'll see a chord progression or a chord symbol that's something like E dominant 7th, maybe with a flat 9, okay? So if you have that chord symbol, Phrygian mode is a good mode. There's another way to use Phrygian. Sometimes you'll just see a chord symbol that says E Phrygian. When you see something like E Phrygian, you usually want to use a voicing something like this. All right, once again, it's a suspended with the flat 9, but the E is in the bass pretty heavy, and you play Phrygian mode. That's the easiest key. If you see E Phrygian, you're in luck, because that's an easy one to do. But suppose you have something like A Phrygian, you're going to play the F scale, I believe. A Phrygian. A Phrygian would be this. All right, and that's Phrygian. Now, Lydian mode, this is another easy mode to figure out. It comes on the 4th degree, so if you're playing F major 7th in the key of C, you play Lydian mode. But it's easy to think of because it's just like a major scale, except instead of the 4th, you have a sharp 4th. Right? And the most common usage of this scale is if you're in a song and you get a major 7th that's not the same as the key of that song. Like say you're in F playing Girl from Ipanema. And then you get to the bridge, which is G flat major 7th. Okay? That's not the key of the song. So you'd use Lydian. Play the major scale, sharp the 4. That's a sharp 4 right there. Right? Because the major scale goes like this. That's the sharp 4. So that's Lydian mode. And that's probably easier to think of that way than thinking This is the 4 chord of D flat and then using D flat major scale. But that is what you're doing. Next is the Mixolydian mode, and this is for the dominant 7th chord. And the thing about it is that there are so many scale choices for the dominant 7th chord. Mixolydian is probably the simplest and most basic. Then Aeolian. I'm going to use the song Corcovado to demonstrate Aeolian mode. So in the second half of the song, quiet nights of quiet stars. When you get to this part, all right, right there we have E minor, so we're using Phrygian. That's just C major. And then we get to the A minor chord. Now I said when you have an A minor, when you have a minor 7th chord, you use Dorian a lot. But here's one that's, we're in the key of C, and that's the 6th chord. And if you listen to the melody, the original melody of the song, it really uses Aeolian mode there, all the white keys. So let's see. See, right there, the melody of the song, because the melody suggests that scale, that's probably the scale you want to use. And then you're on the D minor, and that's Dorian, and Mixolydian. Oh, sorry. Okay, and then we have one more, which is Locrian. Locrian is for a half diminished chord, and that chord would be, you should call it the minor 7 flat 5. It's for a half diminished chord, or you can call it the minor 7 flat 5, which is a better name for the chord. Sometimes it's easier to just think about how the scale is different from, say, a major scale. Like, for instance, the Mixolydian has a flat 7, and the Dorian, flat 3 and a flat 7. But Locrian is a flat 2, a flat 3, the 4, a flat 5, a flat 6, a flat 7. There's a lot of alterations going on there. It's easier to think like this. If you have a B minor 7 flat 5, just think up a half step and play that major scale. Right? But think about it in an odd key here. Suppose you had F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Right? Just think up a half step, play G. All right, but start on F sharp. I think the next thing we really need to talk about is how to practice this stuff so that you have it for automatic recall, so you know it well enough that you can actually use it in a solo. Let me give you a few ideas about how to practice the modes. One good way is to play a bass note and then the chord and put the mode with it. Right? And you don't have to play the bass note. You could use some hip voicings or rootless voicings in your left hand if you wanted to, like C major, you could play this way. And then take it around the cycle. Go to F next, B flat, many other ways to practice these things, and we'll talk more about that in future videos.